Good evening, everybody. Welcome to St. Peter's in Hove. 3 days to go to Lent. And once more, I want to talk about confession, which is the single most important thing that one can do in Lent. Go to confession. Lent is designed to help you go to confession. When one thinks of confession, this is sort of a bit of an excursus. One always thinks of the great 20th century apostle of confession, namely Padre Pio, St. Pius of Pietrelcina. Now, as you know, Padre Pio was a mystic and a saint, and as a result, he was not liked by quite a few people in the church. And he was exiled, we can put it, to the province of Foggia, which is the most remote part of Italy. Nowadays, you can get a very fast train there. In those days, it was almost impossible to get to. Nevertheless, at San Giovanni Rotondo, where he was sent to, thousands upon thousands of people would make the terribly inconvenient trip to San Giovanni Rotondo. Now there's a very fast train. And they would go to see this friar say Mass and also to queue up for hours to go to confession. Now, when I was a little boy at school, one of my teachers, a man called Father Keith Tomlinson, those of you who are at school with me will know who I mean, went all the way from Rome, where he was a student for theology, for the priesthood, to San Giovanni Rotondo and went to confession to Padre Pio. And I said to him, I was about 14 at the time, I said, what was it like going to confession to Padre Pio? And he said, it was just like going to confession to any other priest. Now, the lesson there is that there's a Padre Pio waiting for you in every Catholic church in the world. You don't have to go on a long, perilous journey to access the sacrament of salvation, to have your sins forgiven. It can be done down the road and round the corner. So don't miss this important chance. The other thing about Padre Pio is this. Apparently, he had the ability to read souls. So people would come to Padre Pio and they would make a confession, and the confession might be a bit incomplete. And Padre Pio would say to them, what about X? What about Y? And these people had the, I think, rather uncomfortable realization that Padre Pio had something like X-ray vision when he looked at people. He could see what was in their soul. And they thought this was a miraculous power. Well, it's not a miraculous power, actually. I've come to realize that the more confessions a priest hears, the more he'll come to know what people are going to confess. Because this is a bit of a revelation, I'm afraid, or it might come as a revelation. Human beings are more or less all the same, and we all commit the same sort of sins. And the fact that we're all the same, and we all want to be extraordinary, but we're all really quite ordinary, you know. We want to be extraordinary. And I think we have to accept our own ordinariness. That's why going to confession requires humility. We have to admit, yes, I am an ordinary sort of person, and I make mistakes, and I commit sins, and I need the forgiveness of God. That is humility. I am not exceptional. No exceptions can be made for me. I join the queue just like everybody else to go to confession. If you go to a place like St. Peter's in Rome, you'll see the queue, or even Westminster Cathedral, you'll see the queue of people waiting for confession. And, you know, there'll be people from all walks of life. But before God, and before the tribunal of God, which is confession, we're all the same. So let's embrace our humility and not strive for exceptionalism. All the very best. See you tomorrow when I'll talk about confession again. Bye.